Welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast. I'm Kyra. Thank you all for joining. All right, let's welcome Brooke to the show. Welcome, Brooke.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, why don't you get us started by telling everyone listening or watching who you are and what you do?
Well, my name is Brooke DeBoer. I'm a life coach and an author. I just recently released my book called Living the Free Life, and it is a book to help women overcome bullying, abuse, and relationship trauma, and to get on the right path to living the life of their dreams. It shares a little bit about my story. I also should say, personally, I'm a mom of three daughters, so I'm very interested in helping empower women to be the best that they can be. We live out on a ranch in Oregon and part-time in Los Angeles, and I just want to really help women and anybody for that matter live the life of their dreams. So I'm very passionate about helping people unlimit themselves to getting to their goals and dreams. I feel this is my contribution to making a happier world.
Awesome, fantastic. Well, why don't we start with your book? Why don't you tell us what inspired you to write this?
Absolutely. Where to begin? I had many years of bullying in school
Mhm.
and also went through it, sort of ended up working on my self-worth enough that I ended up in a couple of abusive relationships. Nothing necessarily too severe. I'm sure there's lots of people that have experienced much worse than myself, but definitely relationships that were not healthy for me mentally. They did not build me up. My self-esteem got worse and worse until later in life, I ended up, after having my first two daughters, a health crisis. And I believe firmly that if you don't work out what's going on emotionally, it can start eating you from the inside out, basically, and really works on your physical health. So the book takes you through a process of sharing my story, but then it's a roadmap basically for how you can acknowledge your pain and then start working through that and getting to a healthy place, getting the right support team aboard so that you can begin thinking about your future and how you want to build the life of your dreams and that this is possible. So it takes you through a healing process. My story is the first part of it, but the rest of the book is focused on really giving you tools and reflection questions and different things that can help you start working through your own pain and getting to a place where you can live the life of your dreams too. So,
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So you did mention overcoming bullying in school and dealing with some abuse in your relationships. Was there a moment, so like a pivotal moment in the journey that really helped you to hone in and focus on how did you overcome?
oh gosh, there were many moments in my life that helped me on my healing journey. My healing wasn't overnight. So I think part of what I wish to share with your viewers and anybody else out there who might be interested in the book or be going through something like this is that healing takes time. Sometimes we're not fully aware of what's at work or in our own thoughts and heart. And so it's a process of just tuning into that.
Mhm.
And I think in school, there were moments where I did stand up, even though the bullying repeated a little bit throughout my school age years. So it didn't really get handled until I was much older, much later in life. I had the relationships with boyfriends and my first daughter's father were very, very difficult. And I think probably the hardest for me to overcome because after both of those, and when my daughter was on the way, I ended up being a single mom. And so I had a big choice to make. And I think that was a pivotal moment for me of just asking myself, what kind of mom do I want to be? What kind of example do I want to be? And I
Mhm.
wanted to be strong and empowered. I didn't necessarily feel strong and empowered at the time.
Mhm.
As a matter of fact, I was quite depressed and I felt very unsure of what my future was going to look like when I found out I was pregnant with her. But I also knew that I always wanted to be a mom and I wanted to be a good one. So my pivotal moment, really, I think in a way, my daughter saved me because I had somebody to really live for and to,
Mhm.
really improve myself for. And ultimately, I learned that I needed to do that for myself too. That was a little bit further down the
Mhm.
line, but that was a very pivotal moment for me, wanting to be a good mom for her.
Oh, yeah, I love that. And thank you so much for sharing that. I really like that you acknowledge and mention and call out that like healing doesn't happen overnight. And I think it's important because a lot of times people may have dealt with similar situations when they were younger and maybe were bullied, and you could be an adult now and never have fully healed or dealt with it. And I think you mentioning that is so important because I think like we all could maybe look back in our past at these moments where it's like, oh, well, because a lot of times I think things are like, oh, they're just being kids. But just being kids and mistreating someone, like that's a real thing.
That is so true. And I think if you are hearing this now and you're realizing that maybe there's some unhandled pain, there's some heartbreak that you haven't dealt with, I highly encourage you to begin because
Mhm.
until you sort that out, I feel like there are going to be little limitations in your own mind or just things that are going to kind of trip you up. I mean, we're always going to have those anyway, right? Like
Mhm.
we're human, and so and we all have had little hurts along the way. But
Mhm.
if there's been bullying in your past or you've been in a relationship where you've been mistreated, it's good to understand those things so that they don't repeat.
Mhm.
And also, my book includes some discussion about what is a healthy relationship, what is bullying, what does it actually look like? It kind of defines it. I'm sure there's so much information out there now, thankfully, that people can research and find on bullying and abuse so they know exactly what it is. But my book does touch on it so that it sort of creates an opportunity for you to just see if what I'm describing connects with
Right.
you and then to just have the courage to begin sorting through it. And it's also very helpful to find supportive people. And there's a lot of
Mhm.
resources out there now. I do life coaching with women, so I'm available, but there's also
Mhm.
therapy is now you can do online therapy. You don't even have to drive to a place to have therapy. But for me, I
Mhm.
like being in person with somebody, but there's just so much out there available. And I know it's really scary to start dealing with your heart if you've held a lot of it in and you're beginning to realize that
Mhm.
you have. But at the same time, I'm a completely different person, so I can vouch that the process works if
Mhm.
you have the courage to do it. I just feel so much more at peace. I mean, it's hard to even describe in words, but
Right.
I think it's definitely possible to sort
Yeah.
through it and to do it.
Yes, yes. And I think to your point about like just all the resources being available today and just there's and the ways that you can enter into healing. Because as you mentioned, yes, like you can speak virtually to somebody to start a process. And if you then become more comfortable and you're thinking, maybe I want to take this in person, like they're the steps. And I really appreciate, yes, that there those opportunities are out there for us to take. Now, Brooke, when you were writing the
Mhm.
book, now, I could imagine that you were obviously reliving moments in your own personal journey as you wrote this piece to help other people. Can you talk about maybe some of the challenges along the way? Did you ever just go like, I can't, I don't want to write this?
Yeah, I can. And I'm a believer that everybody needs to write their story. You don't have to have been bullied or been
Hmm.
abused or I mean, your story is so powerful to somebody out there. So I believe everybody should do it. Even if you don't decide to like publish, I just think it's great for your family too and your children or anybody to be able to read your story. So writing my story was fairly challenging because of the things that I had been through, and I thought I had fully processed everything in therapy, but when I started writing, I was like, oh boy, here come the waterworks and the tears. But man, it was so cleansing for me because when I would have a moment where I would experience that emotion, I would say on the other side of that was such a pure feeling of like release. It's a bit hard to describe, to be
Mhm.
honest, but did have moments where there were a lot of tears. I did experience a lot of resistance. A lot of artists will tell you, or writers, that they'll get to a place where they're just blocked and they can't move forward.
Mhm.
And I did have to work through that. My writing coach told me, I'm not going to quote it exactly, but somebody had told them to write 300, 200 or 300 bad words a day. And eventually at the end, you're going to have a book. Because there was also just the part of just not knowing, that imposter syndrome, or not knowing if
Mhm.
I could be successful. Is my book even
Mhm.
going to be any good? Is anybody going to want to read it? Aside from just having my own emotional stuff that I was still sorting
Right.
through, that I
Mhm.
didn't know I needed to sort through further, but I got out as I wrote the book. And then towards the end, I really resisted launching the book. And the self-publishing group that I was working with finally just kind of, I say, they pushed the little baby bird out of the nest and gave me a little shove, a gentle shove, a loving shove, but just kind of said, this is the launch date, this is what we're doing. And
Mhm.
it was interesting. Once I launched the book, so many different people were coming to me and saying, like, that I knew personally very well and had no idea they had abusive situations in their
Mhm.
experience or something like that. And a few people wrote me like in detail, like, I read
Oh.
this and I couldn't believe how much I identified with this. And
Mhm.
this really reminded me of this piece of my life. And so
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I'm kind of carrying on here, but in other words,
No.
it was a very painful process at some
Mhm.
points, and it was a very healing process. And I think, like anything that we do to work on ourselves in personal growth, I think it's like that. I mean, there's going to be really big highs and there's going to be
Mhm.
some lows, and the key is to keep going and to keep following your heart, and don't let yourself be defeated,
Right.
because on the other side of the work is a lot of blessing. So,
Mhm. Yeah. No, I'd love that. And I want to follow up on what you said as far as like the imposter syndrome as you were beginning to, and when you said you were resisting in the end and your
mhm.
publishing company was like gently pushing you out.
Yeah.
And you gave some good thoughts around what people can do. Is there any other advice you give to people who struggle with self-doubt? I know a lot of people, what do they say? It's like analysis paralysis or whatever, when people are like, well, I have this idea, I want to do this thing, and then they just keep trying to make it perfect before they do the thing. So what type of encouragement can you offer the audience?
Oh gosh. I think the key is to just baby steps. Every day, put one step forward toward whatever it is that your heart is calling you to do. And at the end of the day, you're going to be able to put that all together into something really amazing. And I think there is no perfect.
Mhm.
I don't believe in perfection. I don't believe it's even possible.
Right. Yeah.
So I just think, I mean, this might be way too just simple, but I say throw out perfection and think of like a baby learning to walk. Like, did a baby come out of the womb like just running and jumping and
Right.
doing all the
Yeah.
things, you know? No. I mean, they take a step and they fall down, and they might even be frustrated and cry, and they get back up and they fall down again. And this goes on for quite some time before that.
Hmm.
Some learn quicker than others, but
Yeah.
which is just like humans. Some are more cautious, some like to take a little more time with things, but just don't
Hmm.
be too hard on yourself, because it's super important to I mean, I believe, for me, my faith comes into this, that like, I think our biggest job is to just become the person that God created us to be.
Hmm.
And of
Hmm.
course, this is my view, but
Hmm.
I do believe that. And sometimes it's really hard because it's scary and we don't want to fail. But I also believe there are no failures. There's
Hmm.
only lessons. So if
Yes.
you can look at life that way, that you really can't fail, because if something happens and you hit a wall or something, or you trip up, it's just a lesson. Oh, what could I
Hmm.
do better with this? Examine it, take what you can learn from it, toss the rest out.
Hmm.
Make sure that you also look at, like, what can I control and what can't I control?
Yes.
Because some things just happen in life that we can't control. We couldn't have changed it anyway. So
Yes. Yeah, I think that is definitely so many. You said a lot of great things, but yes, that's definitely it. Like you cannot be in you're not in control of everything. And especially like failing fat, like I was like fail fast. Just do it and pick yourself back up and take the learnings
Exactly.
and move forward. Now, you talk about transforming pain into purpose. And we here on this podcast talk a lot about helping women and people to find settling into their purpose, doing the thing like you mentioned. For like, I feel the same, doing the thing that God called you to do. What is that thing? How do I get closer to the purpose? So can you talk about some steps that people can take to start the process in their own life?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I always work with my clients on getting really super clear first and sorting through past pain. So I think it first acknowledging your pain, understanding what went on in your past and how it's affecting you today, I think is a big part of just sort of clearing the deck for moving forward and creating a space to get clear on what it is that you want to create in your experience. So I think those are really big. I think what we talked about with or what I mentioned before about finding a supportive partner, somebody who can keep you accountable to do
Mm-hmm.
the healing work, and then also to somebody who really believes in you, that
Right.
and who sees you for who you are and sees the opportunities that you have to shine and supports you in that. So I think that's also really big. For me, it was really important to have people around me that like saw the best of me. I was already being hard enough on myself that I don't know if without the few people that I find I've eventually found, which was an intentional process also through the healing,
Mm-hmm.
I started to seek reciprocal relationships. And what I mean by that is people who are giving as much as you're giving so that, and it may not be in the same ways, but there's a complementary energy going back and forth. And I think that's really important to get yourself in a space to where you can take steps forward. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think it's just, again, for some it's scarier than others, but I think it's kind of scary to put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Starting a podcast, like it's,
Yes.
any endeavor can be scary when you don't know exactly what you're doing. And I think the other key is to knowing that we don't know what we're doing when we're first starting. We're beginning and we're learning. And so just giving yourself that
Mm-hmm.
permission to just try things, be okay with some lessons along the way, some bumps in the road, and then really seeking to find your why, really digging in and looking what makes your heart sing, what makes you so happy and joyous that it doesn't almost even feel like work, but also giving yourself permission. Like the book, The Artist Way, really helped me where it taught me take an hour or two a week to do an artist date with yourself, which is just basically 1 to 2 hours of you going out and doing things that are bring you joy and
Mm-hmm.
experimenting along the way. I think as we get to be adults, we do a lot of have tos and we get
Mm-hmm.
really into whatever it is that we've set ourselves on the path to do. So whatever our
Mm-hmm.
career is or our role is in the family or whatever, we get a little bit stuck in that and then
Right.
we don't stay creative. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
spending an hour to dedicating some time for yourself each week to really explore your purpose, your why, make sure you're still on the right track. It's okay to pivot and make a change. And then
Mm-hmm.
just taking action and remembering healing takes time. You're going to have some ups and downs with your healing. You'll have some vulnerable moments and some hard times, but like again, I can't say enough how important it is to do the work because we're waiting to see your beautiful self shine, right? Like all of you that
Yes.
are out there, like there is something that you have that uniquely none of us have. I
Mm-hmm.
believe we all have a special gift to share. And when everybody's sharing their gifts, then the world can be an amazing place. It's a
Mm-hmm.
happy place. So
Yes, I love that. And I couldn't agree with you more. I wish people would see that. And I know it's when you're doing the work that you do begin to see that you have the unique talent and there's only one you and
mhm.
only gifts that you have that are not like everybody else's. So, and I love that that is a focus in the work that you do. Yeah. So Brooke, why don't you tell everyone how they can connect to you and the types of programs that you offer and where they can purchase the book?
Yes. Okay. happily. So I have a website. It's called thebrookedeboer.com. I'm on Instagram. Primarily, that is the main platform I'm on, and TikTok, but I'm less often on TikTok right now. So Instagram is at Free Brooke, the word free, and then Brooke with an E. You can DM me there if you're interested in any coaching support, or if you just have some questions. I'm happy to message with you. I offer a free discovery call where we can chat and meet, see what your goals are. And I like to meet up with people that way and make sure it's a fit and a match to work with you. I do individual sessions. I have clients that work with me just once a month on an annual basis. I have packages where you can work with me for 12 weeks and we can make a lot of progress in that amount of time. I love to support my clients to get healthy and get on the path to the life of their dreams. As far as the book is concerned, it's available on Amazon. I'm working on the audiobook right now, which is very, I believe you can find the book on Barnes and Noble and many other retailers as well. So it's called Living the Free Life. It's bright pink, so easy to find. And my name is Brooke DeBoer, so by Brooke DeBoer. And I'd love for you to grab a copy, and I'd love to hear feedback. So if anybody wants to DM me on Instagram or tag me, I love hearing what people are getting out of the book and how it's helping them.
Awesome. I love that. All right. We're now going to transition into three things with Brooke. I'm going to ask you three questions that just helps our audience get to know you a little bit better. So the first question is a two-parter.
Okay.
It is, how do you start and end the day?
Okay, so I don't start the day on my phone, which I'm super proud of. The phone stays in my closet. So
Nice.
I usually get up. I mean, if you want the very first thing I do, I try to drink some water and then I move towards the exercise bike. Or on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I do a gym class with my trainer. So I actually drive there for that. So that's how I start my day. I try to get the workout done first thing so that it gets done. Otherwise, I find excuses.
Yeah. And how do you end the day?
I usually finish the day spending time with my family. We try to have dinner together, you know. Right now I just have one daughter left at home. So, and then we have a French exchange student who's
Oh,
just amazing to have around. So we're trying to learn French, and she's working on just understanding America and working here and everything. It's a great situation. But we end the day together. Usually we try to have dinner if we can. And then I'm really into the show The Mentalist. I don't know if you've ever watched.
oh, okay. Yeah.
We watch that show, and sometimes I watch Gossip Girl. It's a confession. I know it's a little bit of, what do you
The
call that?
older, the new one.
Guilty. Well, I don't know. I think I'm watching the older one because my girls got me started and I kind of wanted to know what they were watching, something to discuss.
Yeah.
All the way through it yet.
Okay.
So I think it's the older one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The old one's a lot better than the redo.
Okay. Well, I'll have to check it out and see.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Number two, what's a goal or intention you set for yourself this year?
Well, the goal for this year is to get out and share the book with as many people as I can. But secondarily, well, there's three goals. I'm trying to learn French. It's really hard for me. I just turned 50 this year, and I realized how hard it is sometimes to learn new things. And I'm even experiencing like a little bit of the stuff I'm coaching people on, which is like, can I do this? I don't know if I can do that. Why can't I remember anything, you know? So, and then just getting out and seeing the world. My husband's a race car driver, so we are traveling quite a bit with his racing. And I guess I have one more. We're finishing up a water project. We're raising money for a village in Africa. Part of the proceeds of the book go to this village. For every book that sells, I give 10%. Might give more too if I really want to get this done. We've raised 80,000 so far. The women and the children are the ones who walk for the water, and they walk 12 kilometers a day with heavy water jugs. And we really would like to help
Yeah.
the women there be empowered by bringing water to their village. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
sorry, that was a lot more than
No,
one.
no. That was awesome. Thank you for sharing. The last question is, where are you currently finding inspiration?
Well, my inspiration comes, I think, from my husband. He is living his ultimate dream, and I'm watching him really conquer it. He's been invited to be part of the World Endurance Challenge Series, WEC, which is the top level of sports car racing. He's been working on it for years. And he's inspiring me every day. He's doing his fitness routine. He's got his brain training that he does. He does some mind work. He's working on his simulator. He's working on sponsorship to make it all happen. I'm super proud of him. So for me, I'm inspired by him
Awesome.
at this moment.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, Brooke, I just want to say thank you so much. And before I let you go, I'm going to ask you one last question. It is, what are three things you would like for our audience to take away from our conversation today?
I think number one is healing is possible. Never give up. You are not your past. Your past does not equal your future. That actually came from my training with Tony Robbins, but I think it's so true, and it's been true for my life. And finally, I think you're not alone. I think our struggles are more similar than they are different. And I think I heard that on one of your previous podcasts too. But it's so something I say all the time to my kids. You're not alone. Everything's going to be okay. There's lots of support out there. And yeah, I think those are my three.
Awesome. I love those. Well, Brooke, it has been absolute pleasure having you on. And thank you so much for sharing and just being so transparent with your story and just your healing journey. And it's great to see just where you are today and that you're continuing to share and bless others with your knowledge and your story and your journey.
Thank you. Well, likewise, I feel very blessed to have been able to spend this time with you today and your audience. And I appreciate it so much. It's nice to meet you.
Awesome. Well, stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back.